Welcome everyone, I'm Brigitte Roy, Head of Partner Sales for Cognizant Switzerland, and today I have the pleasure to be with Katherin Kind, Chief Data Scientist Director for Cognizant. Welcome, Katherin.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. It's excellent being here with you.
Katherin, what is your definition of AI?
Well, there's different definitions, but I like to go with mine into that I say that AI is actually applied mathematics. So you need an algorithm as well as then a data and the entire IT ecosystem where it runs. It should be able to mimic the cognitive ability of a human. And so to give you an example, I started in my career back in 2004 at BMW, where we created the first automatic cruise control, which was mimicking and having the ability to brake and accelerate a car. So it was taking on the cognitive ability and the decision making to control the speed of a car. And so that's the very first time that, even though the term data scientist or AI engineer wasn't coined yet, we were using machine learning and data principles to create exactly that.
Wow, impressive. Okay, got it. And now we are actually at Davos at the World Economic Forum. Why is it so important this year?
I think that is amazing that they're giving exactly IT, AI, and the digital transformation that is needed, as well as the sustainability, the addressing the risks that digitalization and AI use gone wrong can happen. All these risks can impact and do harm, and they're bringing about leaders as well as thought minds to think, what are the measures, what are the frameworks or the methodologies or the technology that we would need in order to bring in place and first ask that questions. What is what we can do to ensure that those risks do not come, or if they come, that we have something to leverage, act, and be able then to bring and reduce harm.
Because it's true, AI has quite a good reputation, yes or no. We can see a lot of progression from the partner business, I can see we have a lot of projects with our partners, including on AI, Gen AI and AI topics. So we can see really good benefit. But also, there's a lot of people who are scared of AI. There was also papers about, to be cautious about AI. What are the risks of AI that you see in your day-to-day?
So I think that very, very important is to define the different areas of AI. So when we look at AI, there's what we still don't have yet. So the general artificial intelligence that is able to do everything, that has even a higher ability or an IQ than a group of human beings. And then we go into what is the built-for-purpose generative AI agents, so agentic AI, in that you have different type of models working and communicating together, independent from human interaction, to solve multi-purposes. So we moved from just the one task type AI, so your HR chatbot that would let you know the changes in, for example, HR regulation where you are, to someone that is able to handle multiple things, like support, for example, the talent acquisition process, as well as then support HR in what would be then in internal interviews, for example, making an assessment according to what would be the ethical and regulations of that country, and then support them, for example, on job description creator. So a multi-tool based system. So the risk that can happen there, just looking at that, would be the bias that could happen. For example, that one of the agent models would start discriminating against female talent. That is the worst that could happen in a company, because they would be missing from a huge amount of the population that would be the right person of that role. So bias is one of the risks, and the other one, of course, is the risk of the company reputation if that becomes also public. And there are all the different type of, let's say, risks. If there is very little transparency, generative AI. A lot of the models are black box, so people don't know neither the data that were used to create it or the mathematics behind that. So we know, for example, that transformer models are used for text generation, which is what everybody is using right now in large language models or middle-sized language models, or even what I call huge language models like O1 from OpenAI. There are areas on that data that might not be useful, number one. And the data that has been fed into them might not be coherent nor might be true, because they wave scrap the entire internet. As you can see it whenever, for example, if you're using ChatGPT 04, and it tells you, well, we were trained till September 2019. So the data might be outdated, and it might be scrapping of an opinion that is giving you as true. So that's what it gives you a full answer. It's called hallucination, might be coming from those, let's say, inadequate data points. So the risks is, do I have enough data? Do I have the right data? And is it actually an LLM that's useful for me? So sometimes it's actually better to analyze what is what I want to do, the outcome. If I'm really going to be using black box, or is it better than to go gray box, which is reduce the size of the LLM. Yeah? That means taking the data points that we don't need and only keeping the, let's say, the particular industry information or role information or process information, and then re-giving it your data. And so that means that you customize it, and then from there you have a better control. And it's great because you're giving it data that you know, that you pre-selected, that you did a data scanning for, and that you know it was collected according to GDPR, responsible AI, also data protection principles.
So we discussed bias in Gen AI. What about the bias in AI?
Regarding AI, I'll go. So you have, imagine the big bubble of artificial general intelligence, they got agentic AI, then we're moving into machine learning, then we're moving into what would be then CNN, as a convolutional neural networks, and deep neural networks, and then you have Gen AI, which is a subset of DNN. And so as you see, AI can be quite a lot. So there's millions, literally millions, M plus M, possibilities of algorithms and data combination that can create M plus M different type of models, different type of applications. There's still a big, what would be then unknown, and that's why I see the risk framework. So unknown, so we don't know about AI or new methodologies. That within, let's say, this classification still are needed to be invented. And there's maybe not even the mathematics for that, so going AGI.
Oh, interesting.
Then we have the known unknowns. So the areas that people are researching, for example, AI applied to quantum computing, which is still a pretty new niche. Then you have the known knowns. So the areas that everybody's using, like reinforcement learning, that means the AI learns just like a human by mistakes or doing some things right. Or the areas in which you would have, let's say, the tried and tested models, which are the areas in which you can already start doing a framework. So the only way to do it is that if you have particularly frameworks for understanding, number one, how reliable it's going to be, how trustworthy it's going to be, and that if you ask a question again,
that
they recall if it's going to be the same. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you about a company that was able then to break ChatGPT 3.5 by asking the same question thousands of times. And by, iteration 10,000x plus, I don't know which exactly was the number, it revealed all its data, how it was trained. So then there was the risk that if the particular measures, we call guardrails, are not built into the particular model, there's a risk of leaking up data. The main important part is the framework and the process that helps you produce something structurized, that you can have the control on how it's being made. So more or less how you would, let's say, cook something. So you know where to source the ingredients. You know 100%. You want still to trust that the sourcing was sustainable, for example, if you're buying ecological ingredients. This is similar with that data. So you want to trust the data was sourced responsibly, that it was according to data protection rules, that is time-stamped, and you want to know the origin, because that is one of the biggest risks, not knowing where it came from. And by having these particular data rules, as well as the way to work, so that you define from the use cases, the requirements, the particular methodology to use, and to have tools like our partners, that also offer a responsible AI or an ethical AI and a sustainable framework
as well.
And governance.
In the building and then on the generation of the output, right?
Correct. You have then a gray box control. But nevertheless, then you want to put then metrics. So KPIs that tell you, for example, through testing, through validation, is how often the same answer, so the recall metric, is coming out. Or how often, let's say, the result, of what would be then when you ask, where you got that from? To point to me the particular email or document that you're referencing. How many times that reference came up, to give it a trustworthy or reliability metric in order then to give the usability. And then also very important, is that it's built for efficiency. Generative AI, for example, for where an AI method, for example, machine learning or even, not even AI, statistical control would be enough to do, for example, predictive analytics. So learning how to size the particular mathematical task to the particular use case is very important. To say when, let's say it's complex enough, you have terabytes of data, you have many different type of data points, you have complex processes, then you know that particularly any of those methodologies is the right thing for you.
Okay, good point. So it doesn't apply to all the data set and depending on the size as well.
It's what you want to do. So if I want to cook soup, of course, I'm going to need a pot, and I'm going to need a lot of water. And it's different if I'm going to fry an egg. I know I'm going to need a pan, I'm going to need oil. So it's the same thing with how you want to use AI. So it has to be according to the use case, and always, if you're a business, map to your business goals and have the KPI to measure that efficiency and the transparency framework to see, well, is the outcome from your investment coming up? So that you know that any dollar you invested in AI is going to give you a particular ROI. And then for that is that particularly framework of transparency, of having a measurement and the monitoring of the models, of the way they're distributed and the outcomes of that, it's important.
Thank you. Today in the Chalet, Cognizant Chalet, actually we spoke also about responsible AI. So you just touched a bit about the topic now. Is there more? Is there a framework that you've developed? Is it something you would like to give us more details about it right now?
So we develop at Cognizant our responsible AI framework, so which is then the responsible AI wheel, in which we say, well, their number one thing is that everyone in the organization needs to be trained, needs to understand why is it important about the way that AI is being used. Now that through, for example, our partner, Microsoft, with Copilot, it's created now and democratized AI. So there is now a new role that everybody has, the citizen developer. Nobody needs to know coding anymore. Nobody needs to know software engineering principles. And now everybody can do their own applications. So what do? You simply cannot let your employees just loose with that tool. So you want it to be efficient, to bring in operational efficiency, but also to remind them of the risks. Yeah? So there is ways on using that tool. So I wouldn't give you, for example, a chainsaw without even training you first and telling you about the risks that when you're cutting wood, if you don't have the proper gear, you could actually harm yourself. So you want to do the same thing as a company, to build in your organization the training framework for everybody, the policies, the guidelines, as well as what would be then the methods for monitoring back exactly what is going on. Build in the organization what would be a transformational, what would be AIization. So with data, we call it digitalization, and with AI, I call it AIization. And from this is the allyship between all the departments and also sharing the, let's say, profitability that they see from the tool. And everybody can tell you now a story about how great Copilot helped them summarize that email, chat with their PDF that would have taken them weeks, and be more productive in a different way. But it's important then on having the particular rules on the usage, on what is, let's say, something that they can trust. And then, of course, and that's good, that our partners, not just Microsoft, have built also those guidelines and those trainings as well as we at Cognizant, that particular framework and what we call model accelerators that have already been with try and tested data and have been also applied in direct use cases in the industry to really have a usability to our customers. And you also asked me a question if I've done it myself. Yeah, so I did it. And responsible AI is many different columns. Yeah, so you have cybersecurity and you have sustainability. And one of the things here that also at WEF that I like is that they're also looking for sustainable goals. There's a lot of criticism on AI, that every prompt that you're using, if you're using OpenAI, that's half a liter of water. So how to, let's say, bring on about it, and also the electricity, if that electricity is not coming from sustainable sources. So how to make AI sustainable. And that is one of the frameworks that I did with my team, and also inspired at Cognizant Norway, that we brought all the data centers, and we only use data centers in Norway. That means our models were in data centers in Norway. They are using fjord water to cool down the data centers. That warm water is used to heat up the real estate nearby, and they are powered by 100% hydropower. So at least we were able to remove 100% the CO2 footprint from our AI models that we were using it, creating the very first sustainable AI application for a customer. And that is one of the things that, if we also want to progress, but we still have then to keep the environmental goals, that is one of the areas that we've done, as well as then an assessment on helping our customers also help reduce their CO2 footprint. We have established with our NeuroAI platform a way, for example, to calculate a predictive outcome from a prescriptive situation. So what does that mean?
Can you give an example?
Yes, I know. These are. So a prescriptive thing is exactly what I'm telling you is your use case, what you should do. Yeah. So I prescribe that we need to save on what would be logistic costs. Yeah. But at the same time, we want to reduce our CO2 footprint. And 80% of the CO2 footprint from any product that's produced, for example, in the food industry, or in the electronic industry, is coming from logistics. So finding ways to reduce the location, or even co-locating the sources for example, ingredients or for parts, is an immense amount of savings of CO2. Or we helped the maritime operations company reduce their CO2 level in that they were able to predict when the particular right timing for a ro-ro ship, so a carrier of cars, should arrive at a particular port. So if there is, let's say, a traffic on that port, then the AI would give that information back into the ship so that they know they need to reduce the speed, thus using less fuel.
Yes.
Thus reducing the CO2. So we use the NeuroAI framework to predict exactly even disruptions through weather. We partner with Google. Exactly, they have one of the most sophisticated and advanced weather models for this, in order then to feed that and work together with NeuroAI to bring it about and make that prediction about what would be the best type of rerouting, and thus creating also, again, a sustainable application for our customer.
Oh, excellent. I didn't know this one. Oh, well done. So you mentioned just now a use case that we do for our client actually in the food industry. We also have a lot of clients in the life science. Would you have an example of where we help a client to succeed?
Yes, in Cognizant in the UK, we have our global head of generative AI, David Fern. He invented a methodology called cognitive design theory and created an award-winning app, which is called the AI Doctor, using Cognizant responsible AI principles and his methodology, and then of course our data governance as well as our data security responsible principles to create that app. And the use case of that was, for example, in the UK, their health system is public, so the NHS, and sometimes is way too much, let's say, filled in with people wanting to have a, let's say, a visit to the doctor because of a common cold. And that is exacerbating what would be, let's say, the time of the doctors and giving them less time to concentrate on the patients that have a chronic illness. So the AI Doctor was created. It's an app that anyone can download, and you can give it your symptoms and talk to it as if it was a doctor, and then it would be able then to advise you. So if it's a common cold, what you should do, and if it's something that what would be a red flag, it would immediately tell you, then call right now, what would be then emergency services, or go to your next doctor as soon as possible. But at least, let's say, it reduces for what would be the common, let's say, use cases of, well, I have a cold, but I cannot go to work, I cannot drive a car, so I need what would be a cert, a medical certification that I'm ill, I cannot work. So it is able then alone to reduce this amount then of what would be the time from the medical services. So this is an excellent example in which then you see that if you're using a responsible AI framework with what would be then also data that has been quality scanned, as also according to data protection principles, and with the cognizant design theory, which has different layers of verification and validation of the model. We already talked about KPIs and metrics, so it's using something similar, and at the same time giving the developer different type of examples by testing the AI in all these different formats, in all these different areas in which it could be, let's say, queried, to see, again, how reliable it is, and giving a reliability index, a trust index, and in the end, serving a great purpose, in this case, a socioeconomical purpose, and it's, what I say is AI for good.
Yeah, it can be really life-changing. Oh, thank you. Okay. So maybe one last question. Let's say I'm a company. In 2025, I am implementing AI. What are the really hot topics that I should be aware, that I should look out for?
So let's say that if you've already decided to use AI, I am going to, let's say, make the assumption that you already have data governance and you have master data management. Yeah? Because if you don't have not mastered your data, you should be very, very careful in using AI, particularly the complex use cases. So AI is nothing but 80% data, and 20% algorithms. That then creates the model, again, within a landing zone of a combination of a different type of IT tools. So it is very, very important, again, to go on the right process, the methods, look at the guidelines, look at the regulations on the particular country, and ensure that the AI is built for the business case that you have in the country where you're operating it, that the way and the transparency in the explanatory ways, if you're a company that are highly regulated, like life sciences or banking or insurance, etc., or the automotive industry, where I come from, that all of this is built into this AI. And then again, the ROI, and as well as what would be the ethical considerations, you're going to see that there's going to be a benefit for it. But the most important part is that before you even start 1 or 3 application creations or lines of code, ensure that your AI strategy is aligned to your data strategy and is aligned to your business strategy. If that vision, mission, business case strategy is not aligned to there, I wouldn't even start using AI in the broader sense.
Okay. Thank you very much again, Katherin.
Thank you very much, Brigitte. It's great being here today with you.
Thank you. Pleasure was mine.